Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to start just by speaking a little bit, very briefly, on what World Invocation Day is. It's tomorrow, and I'm going to show a little 5-minute video that probably explains it better than I could in 5 minutes, certainly. And when I get to the end and it goes through the Great Invocation, this prayer that's been given out after the war for all of humanity, I'll stop at each stanza and just explain a little bit for those who are not familiar with it, what those stanzas mean, their sort of deeper meaning, if you like. So World Invocation Day is always on the Gemini full moon. And it's part of a festival they call the Festival of Humanity, or the Festival of Christ. And it's a day that people all around the world, a day of prayer and focused spiritual contact. So it's people of all faiths, of all spiritual paths, and they come together to make an evocative appeal to divinity. And after the talk we did last week, when we looked at the power of group meditation, we know that when 1% of any population meditates and goes up into those higher realms of consciousness and works together in collective intent, we know that that has the power to change the whole consciousness subconsciously of all. And so World Invocation Day is really an expression of that capacity of group meditation to make a difference. And people, as an act of service, repeat the Great Invocation throughout the day and see it as a day of contemplation and prayer, a spiritual day, if you like. So what it is, it's a call for love and light to flow into human consciousness, so that the soul of humanity can be born on earth. This is our collective soul, if you like. This invocation flows out of a very natural sort of evolutionary urge to lift our awareness, our energies upward toward the light. And we find this throughout nature. For example, it's that same urge that the seed under the soil travels up toward the sunlight. It's that same urge that we have to lift up. It's why when we talk about spiritual energies, it's upward, it's up toward the light. So the World Invocation Day has the power to transform not just individual consciousness, but the collective consciousness of humanity, and therefore the planet itself. I noticed it's also World Environment Day tomorrow, so that's probably no coincidence, or a beautiful coincidence, because World Invocation Day is also, it's invoking right relations. So right relations within ourself, with our higher self, our soul, right relations between people, between nations, and right relations between humanity and the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and our planet herself. So it's a beautiful day. If you have time tomorrow, I strongly urge you to take that time. Right, I will play this and trust in technology.
Millions of people hope for a future world in which goodwill flourishes and the well-being and right relations between people, nature and the earth is paramount. We dream of a world that is whole, that integrates the vision of human rights and earth stewardship with the principles of sharing, so that together we can create a better world of peace and justice for all. Large numbers today find their meaning and purpose in helping create such a world. Through the determination, creativity and concern of so many groups and individuals, we are moving towards a more enlightened future. But something else is needed too. In order to build the world we long for, we need to draw on our higher capacities of will, of love, and of lighted intelligence. People of good will and good heart can pool their spiritual resources and come together in focused prayer and attention to invoke the energies of the soul of humanity, those divine potencies that lie in the higher reaches of our nature. The Great Invocation is a world prayer that concentrates the natural call constantly arising from people of all cultures for light and love and the will to do that which is good and right. Its beauty and strength lies in its simple expression of a number of universal truths. The truth of the existence of a basic intelligence to whom we vaguely give the name of God. The truth that behind all outer seeming, the motivating power of the universe is love. The truth that throughout history and in all faiths, great individualities have come to earth and embodied that love so we could understand. And the truth that both love and intelligence are effects of the will of God. It is the will and plan of God for humanity to constantly evolve and develop in its ability to express love. We are approaching a time when we can expect another great individual to come to lead us forward on this path. Hence the call in the Great Invocation, may the coming one return to earth. Every year since 1952, large numbers of people have used the Great Invocation on World Invocation Day. Please include the Great Invocation as part of your regular prayers and meditations on this day, knowing that as you do so, you are linking with countless others from around the globe who are united in a concentrated act of invocation. The Great Invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth.
So I just want to talk briefly. I'll let each stanza run through, and then I'll just talk briefly to each of those stanzas just to help to explain them a little bit more. So the first one, the light, is the illumination, the light of understanding, the light that comes from your higher self of intuition, so that you eventually become the intuitive knower.
From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May the coming one return to earth.
So this is the universal, unconditional, divine love, the pervading force that connects all and is the energy of our universe, our cosmos, on which it is based and built. The coming one embodies, it may be an individual that embodies what we call the Christ consciousness, or the highest expression of love that human beings can aspire to. Or some people don't necessarily believe that one person will embody that Christ consciousness, but that the mankind as a body, as a whole, will embody that Christ consciousness.
From the center, where the will of God is known. Let purpose guide all little human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve.
So this comes from the concept that there is a divine intelligence, there is a plan, and that humankind play a part in that plan, and that we can access that plan through our will. And that the higher vibrational energies are, when we lift up into those, we can be in touch with our part of that plan. The will of God is, some people speak of a place called Shambhala, where individuals of very high vibration know the will of God and are helping mankind. The masters refers to higher vibrational beings or spiritual masters from all faiths and religions who have gone through such reached such a high level of spiritual advancement that they no longer need to incarnate down on earth, and they have chosen the bodhisattva path to come back and stay and help mankind to reach, until all of mankind reach enlightenment. So they have gone beyond the sphere, and they're the highest expression of the heart energy, there to work with us and help us.
From the center, which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells.
So this is, humans are responsible for the creative intelligence and spiritualizing matter, manifesting this spiritual plan on earth to bring heaven to earth, if you like. To seal the door where evil dwells is to heal all darkness, to bring it into the light, to make all that is unconscious conscious, to face your individual and our planetary dweller on the threshold. It's where the planet becomes infused with, and humanity becomes infused with its soul and directed and governed by that soul.
Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
So usually the Great Invocation, we finish by sounding the Om 3 times. And the idea is the Om is a creative vibration. It was the vibration that created the universe. And when we sound the Om, especially collectively, it seals the invocation. It seals the energy of the invocation. So I'm going to now... there we go. I am going to hand it over to you, Ted. I want to introduce Ted Capstick, who is an esoteric astrologer, and he is going to give us some insights into this particular Gemini full moon that we are in the build up to now, and that comes to full fruition tomorrow. So I will hand it over to you, Ted, if you can unmute yourself.
I think I have. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you very much, Teresa, for that beautiful presentation of the invocation. And a couple of words there, slightly different from the version I know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a modified version.
Yeah.
An updated version, if you like.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Some people use the traditional, some people use that one. I don't think it matters.
No. Okay, nice to see the updates. Good evening, everyone. And I'm trying to always put over the ideas that some of the words, you know, Invocation Day, Festival of Humanity, the Festival of Christ, in energy terms, as in fact that invocation does beautifully. But as we go through the year and the different full moons, whilst the full moons astrologically look very, very similar, there is a great energy difference in each moon, and therefore it is good to look at this. It's already been touched upon in some of the words of the invocation, but we notice that with each full moon there is a seed thought to meditate on, and also the astrological energies. And I'd like to point both of those out. The seed thought for Gemini is, I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. And of course, if we consider the sign of Gemini, it is in fact the Roman numeral 2. And we have two pillars joined together, two factors, and these factors can be any duality made into one. So we're looking for unity at the time of Gemini, particularly because it's the resolution of dualities. And we can look at this seed thought and quite easily see the higher and the lower self in there, and the need for there to be this integration or infusion of the two energies by, as was alluded to earlier, looking upwards, looking away from the three worlds of outer manifestation, which we know so well in waking consciousness, and looking inwardly, which of course we're doing collectively in this weekly group hosted by Teresa. We're going vertically, subjectively, with any of the number of people who are doing the same, and which is urged by the wisdom that comes through on the second ray. And this is the thing about Gemini. We had different energies with the Wesak full moon, which I went into, but we're predominantly speaking about the energy of love wisdom here. And it is a duality, as it needs to be in Gemini, love hyphen wisdom. The two are intricately and beautifully intertwined, as we will see with this labor of Hercules that I want to talk about in a moment. But let's just consider the energy of love hyphen wisdom. Love wisely, wisdom lovingly applied. It brings in the idea of the healer, does it not, and the teacher. And we look at the life of the Christ and the festival of Christ, of humanity, of unification, and of goodwill. These are all words that are used for this particular full moon. But each of these names gives us some idea of the quality of the energies available to us at this time for distribution, and that means for our expression. So we take it on board, we nurture the seed thought, and we see how that vivifies the heart chakra and how it enables us to perhaps be a degree more tolerant, a degree more forgiving, a degree more understanding that people have different capacities to express and to demonstrate. And this is part of the redemptive process that Christ came down to earth to talk about and to show people, particularly, that there was a better way of living other than the individual. These words, unification, the Christ, also provide a clue to the need of the hour and the nature of the saving force that is required. And we talk about the world, and we talk about reaching a point of consciousness where we become initiate, which essentially means that we don't take our cue from the personality world, from world leaders, well, maybe when they're spiritual ones, or from whatever we're being fed or conditioned by in our lives, by our family, whatever it might be, that we look within for some higher authority. That's the world initiate. And that's Capricorn. And we've been talking about Capricorn with relation to the situation I have certainly in relation to the situation that we find on the earth as well. It could be that it is also an initiatory experience for humanity as a whole, and we in fact touched upon this in the previous talk, April the 16th. Now, the world server takes place in Aquarius, and this is where we share energies. It's very interesting in that presentation and in that little video clip, which I hadn't seen before on the invocation day, quite beautiful, that when we're dealing with Gemini, we're dealing with the element of air. And the other two signs for are Libra and Aquarius. And Libra was mentioned without mentioning it. Peace and justice, two huge qualities of Libra were mentioned there. And then the sharing and the service that is implicit in Aquarius. But even beyond the world server is the world savior. In Pisces, and we understand this idea, what we are trying to do is save the world and make a contribution to that through the lifting of energies. And in the literature, it is referred to, this particular festival, as the nature of the saving force, which must be spread abroad in human hearts. And so, again, as Teresa has clearly pointed out in many of her talks, we are talking about being part of that. It's not above us. It's not, oh my goodness, there's the divine. There is an open door at full moon to join in this glorious, by actually leaving behind the lower vibrations and realizing we're something much, much bigger than we think we are. And we are anyway, whether we realize it or not. But there needs to be a point of realization, which will be a point of energy empowerment. And so the energy of goodwill and the spirit of cooperation, these are energies particularly abundant at the time of the Gemini full moon. But I would also suggest there is an interface with the Libra full moon and with the Aquarian full moon, because there is a predominant second ray influence. Now, we understand in esoteric psychology the unifying ray of the solar system, and the primary quality of the Christ mission is the second aspect of love wisdom. And it relates very directly, in my view, to the second stanza of the invocation there, referring, of course, again to the coming one's return. But until these qualities, these beautiful qualities that we're talking about with Gemini and its two associated air signs and the second ray of love wisdom, they need to be far more evident than they perhaps are today in human relations, because otherwise the goal of humanity as the focal point of distribution for spiritual energies, again mentioned earlier, to the lower three kingdoms of animal, flowering, plant and vegetable and mineral kingdoms, will remain a frustrated enterprise. Now, these are not my words, these are the words of the Arcane School, who I've studied with for over 9 years. And this is the idea that we mustn't just have it as a concept. We must have it in our hearts to give out, and we will see the transformation take place ourselves. We will see us growing into more tolerant, understanding human beings. And we're all at different points on the path. So goodness me, we all need to understand that we might have to slow down our flight sometimes to just hang on to a soul who's desperately trying to keep up with the flow. We may have to release our vibrations. Maybe in previous ages, it was the case where you could initiate yourself. You could go down the path and find liberation on your own. But that's not what we're being told since the Christ came to earth, and certainly what we're being told in the Aquarian age. And the transformation of these lower kingdoms depends in its first instance upon the transformation of humanity itself. Do we understand ourselves? Man, know thyself, and that's very Aquarian, another air sign, is as pertinent today as it was when first inscribed on the wall of the Delphinian temple of Apollo. And how many times do other people have to bring to light our own shortcomings? And we think, I shouldn't have reacted like that. That's positive. That's positive because something is coming up and being shown to us and helping us to get rid of lower vibrations so we can flower into higher vibrations. And I just want to finish really with this Labour 3 of Hercules, because it beautifully shows to me the importance of the duality of love wisdom, which we've talked about, and the order in which it can come. Because I've been a seeker of the wisdom for nearly 40 years, and I've had to learn this lesson. Now, if you happen to have Gemini on the cusp of your 8th house, which rules the labours of Hercules, then this will be particularly pertinent to you. However, I've not come across anybody yet, and I don't have Gemini on the cusp. I have Pluto on Pisces, I should say, on the cusp. This particular labour is important to everybody, and I'm going to paraphrase it because it goes into some detail. But on the 12 labours of Hercules, Labour 3, Hercules is set off on the path to gather together the golden apples of a sacred tree. They're called the golden apples of the Hesperides, and he's seeking them. And the first part of the journey is that he has to go through all types of obstacle. He overcomes the serpent and Antadius, meets Basilius, the arch deceiver, who says you don't need all this knowledge, you can just be yourself and you can get to the light anywhere, and he realizes that that isn't the case. He frees Prometheus from the rock because he's learned to serve, and then he's confronted by Atlas, and Atlas has a problem. He's a big, large, strong man, but he's got a problem, and he implores Hercules for his help, and Hercules is on the path for the apples. But the heart is activated in Hercules, and he decides to, for now, disband the search for the golden apples of wisdom, and he tends to the problems of Hercules, who of course is carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he needs some help. And this is reality. How many times are we going to come across people who need our help imminently, and it stops us? And it stops us on our progress. And so he forgets the tree, he forgets the wisdom, and he helps Atlas over a period of time. And as Atlas thanks him at the end and resecures his robe around him and thanks Hercules for his love, out of the robe flow golden apples of wisdom. And he says to Hercules, we'll pick them up. He could only access the wisdom once his heart was activated. And this is not only the link between love and wisdom, it shows us that through this loving service, we can come to the goal, but not otherwise. And it couldn't be any clearer. These are marvelous mythological. Gary will do a better job. Gary, who spoke to you 2 weeks ago, will do a much better job than me on this. But these myths are very powerful, and they're very, very apt, and there is one, of course, for each full moon. And so you could look at that in some more detail if you needed any further confirmation that the opening up of the heart is the way to wisdom. And you know, I think that it's a lesson that I've learned. We can go ahead with our heart, but wisdom is truly revealed rather than learned. I think our host Teresa is a good example of that. I've had thousands of books to look through to get to my wisdom, and because you've gone to the heart first, you get it through yours, and you know it's there. Could we just have a look at the chart to finish off then, please? Just a couple of points to make, not much. Teresa, did everybody get this chart? Yes? Okay. So if you could just point out the blue there, it's quite simply...
Oh, sorry.
The blue in the middle there, just quite simply showing you that at the moment, which is 12 minutes past 8, tomorrow evening, in London, and it won't be much different for us up in the northwest corner. We've got there the moon and the earth at exactly the same degree and minutes, and of course the sun opposite. Now the sun is in Gemini. This incidentally would be the birth chart of anybody born on the 5th of June 2020. Probably be a very auspicious birthday as well. At 12 minutes past 8 in the evening. That will be their natal chart. And we can see there that the sun is in Gemini. They will be born in Gemini if they're on the 5th. We call it the Gemini full moon, but the moon is actually always in the opposite sign, as we've got there the moon in opposition, but blending with the sun. And that's where we get the maximum amount of light there. There's no planets in the way. And of course, the earth and the moon are conjunct as well, and that's why we are in receipt of so much light, and that's why the meditations work so well at this time. I thought I would also in red just circle the planets which we talked about on the 16th of April. We had 5 planets in Aquarius then, when subjected to the chart of the UK. Please note there's just 2 now, and that Saturn, which is the small letter H with the cross in it, has gone off into Aquarius, giving us some breathing space, getting towards the bottom of the first curve. If we're going to get the second curve, we sincerely hope not. And that Saturn is going, can we point to the R at the top of that, please? Is going backwards. And this is why I'd mentioned in August, October, Saturn will return into Capricorn, which will make more intense some of the problems on Earth, but not, I would suggest, anything like as severe as they can be. It could be indicative of a second but much lower peak. That's why I think everyone is being particularly cautious at the moment. And then thirdly, to finish off with the green, I have said here that, well, I haven't said, but when we get if we do the Cancer full moon at this time in July, around about, we'll see an R by Neptune there. So whereas we've got our 3 R's over with the planets that, in the red circle, we will get Neptune retrograde, which will indicate that we have the most strongest spiritual energy available to us on the earth. How might that manifest? Well, it's potential, and I'm really hoping it does manifest. It could be a complete leveling out of cases. It could be the first discovery of a serious vaccine. It could be something to do with the fact that there is more leadership appearing between countries, more cooperation. It's all spiritual, and it could be anything to do with anything in the invocation that we've had at the moment. But whilst we are there in Pisces, which rules the unconscious, things can come to the surface which have been hidden for a long time. And I've mentioned this before in talks, things that we thought might not be solved. And only this morning do we hear the news about the possible solving of the case with Madeleine McCann. Pluto in Capricorn brings everything to the surface and this is so that we can start with a clean sheet. Even the most small and personal details can be unearthed, and this is why even what's going on, the terrible problems that are going on in America, I haven't looked at America's chart, will be bringing to the surface those matters that need to be brought to resolution before we can go into the age of Aquarius. But happy to stay on till afterwards and answer any questions on that. Thank you for your attention.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Ted. That was brilliant. Okay, we'll come to the point now where we do the meditation as a group. So I'm just going to share the affirmation of love. So get yourself comfortable. Which way did I go? There you go. So just have the intention from your heart that we're coming together as a group joining many groups all over the world who use the potency of the full moon to come together in meditation. And it's like we become one group, even though we are separate groups. And we don't have to be together in time or space, just in heart intention. So those who are joining us in the recording are still joining us. I know that's hard to get your head around, but that's how it works. So let's repeat the affirmation of love. Repeat it to yourself, either out loud or quietly or internally. So I'll repeat it. In the center of all love, I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. So now I just want you to get yourself comfortable and close your eyes. And before we begin the meditation, I just want to ground our energy. So just imagine that you're sending roots or a connection energetically down either through the soles of your feet into the earth under the building in which you are, or through the base chakra. Just so we know we are spiritual beings, but we are grounded in matter on this earth. And then closing your eyes, I just want to bring you into this present moment. So just notice your body sitting on the chair. Just notice the clothes on your skin. Turn your awareness to your hearing and just allow sounds to come in. Just notice. And now take your awareness to your breath. And just notice the in-breath and notice your body breathing out. Feel your body beginning to relax and let that breath get a little deeper. So that you feel like you're breathing deep in the very center of your being. And with your mind, just keep a gentle focus on the breath. If you find that your mind is distracted, as soon as you notice, just come back to the breath. Come back with loving kindness. And just allow the breath to take you deep into a stillness to be found inside. And just hold your awareness in that stillness, still with a gentle focus on the breath. And now I want you to take your awareness to the center of your chest, your heart center, your heart chakra. And I want you to imagine a beautiful lotus bud, cerise pink. And as you breathe, this lotus blossom is slowly, this bud is slowly opening to reveal 6 perfectly formed, beautiful petals. And as you breathe, let that feeling of expansion in the center of your chest continue. As this lotus blossom opens, imagine your heart is filling with light and with love and the will to good. Through the heart, we can connect to our soul, our higher self, our highest aspect. Now I want you to imagine that you are bringing white or violet, purple or gold light down from your higher self, down through the crown of your head. And imagine the heart acting as a vessel to receive and distribute this light throughout your body. So continue to open to that white, violet, purple or gold light pouring down into your being, radiating out to fill all of your physical body, purifying, cleansing, healing. And as that light radiates out and fills your physical body, I want you to imagine that it is now radiating out into your etheric body, or the energy field or aura that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical body. So continue to hold a space for this expansion. Let light pour down through into your heart and radiate out, lifting your vibration and connection with the highest aspect of who you are. Now imagine that this light is now flowing out to fill your home and all who share your home with you. Now allow it to continue to flow and to fill your street, your neighbors, to start to fill the community in which you live. Continue to be an open channel and vessel for this energy of light, this energy of love. Now let it flow out into your town or city. And imagine that it joins with the light of all those who are joining us in this meditation and all those joining in meditation. Now let it fill this nation. Continue to let it radiate out to fill this part of the world. To fill this hemisphere, bringing light and love and the will to good and anchoring it down on earth. Now let it fill the entire world. Now imagine you can see our planet from space, and you can see our planet surrounded by this beautiful light, like an aura or an energy field. And you see this light healing our planet, restoring the balance in nature, so that the air is clean and fresh, the water's pure and clear. We have a healthy ozone layer, healing in the plant kingdom. See all the animal and plant life flourishing. And now see this light flowing into the hearts and minds of all mankind, bringing peace, goodwill, and right relations between all of mankind. Opening the hearts to this Christ consciousness, this love wisdom, this energy that is available at this time. Lifting our awareness, lifting the collective consciousness, so that we can start to envisage and envision a world in which we live in peace and harmony with all. So we are drawing down this spiritual energy and distributing it throughout the material world, spiritualizing matter. Hold a space for this energy and let it radiate out. Continue to hold a space, allowing this light and love to pour through your being and radiate out, combining with all who are working in this way to enact powerful change. See that light around our planet building, dispelling the darker, heavier energies. See it flowing down into the hearts and minds of all, consciously or unconsciously. Igniting the higher heart qualities of compassion, of unconditional love, of forgiveness, of gratitude, of courage. See groups of people all over the globe uniting in higher purpose. See them as sparks of light. And now gently opening your eyes, and you'll see on your screen a copy of the Great Invocation. This is the traditional version. And as we repeat each stanza, say it with conviction. Give it the energy of your heart. Reach in and find that place. Find the love for humanity and your desire for change, for positive change. And we'll pause briefly after each stanza just to visualize the energies pouring down. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you. Namaste. I'm going to pause the recording there for a moment so that we can go and clap for to show our support for the NHS. We'll come back in a few moments and there'll be an opportunity for discussion, for questions. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. I think we've got most people back. So I open this up now for comments, questions, discussion. If you want to say something, unmute. Let me just change the setting so you can unmute yourself or raise your hand and I can unmute you. So yes, you can unmute yourself. We got everybody. You're all quiet today. No questions. It was such a fantastic talk. You don't have any questions. Philip, go for it. So if you
something, I mean, when I use the Great Invocation, I use a visualization with it. And one of the things I think is that when you say, may Christ return to earth, you're also speaking about the whole of the spiritual hierarchy, the masters together. And one or two other things. The other thing it is translated in other languages as well. I was one sort of group.
It is, I think, about 80 languages. And part of the reason for that modern version was to make it not so Christian focused, because it's not just for predominantly Christian.
Yeah, I think some of the words may,
yeah. So they wanted to open it up so that people of all faiths and spiritual paths could identify it, which is also the reason for the videos and things, to give a bit more explanation.
And also, I don't know if you've seen the Eleanor Roosevelt did a radio reading of the Great Invocation, which is probably on YouTube if people want to.
It is on YouTube, yes.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. The helped found the United Nations, obviously the wife of the President Roosevelt.
That's right.
Quite interesting if people search for that.
Yeah, well, it's powerful. Like we talked about last week, the power of group meditation, the power of group prayer, especially in an invocative way. It's increasingly how we will work in the future as we start to harness this power, and especially at the full moon. It's the most potent, it's the biggest opportunity to make a difference, if you like. Anybody else? You're all quiet today. Quite often at the full moon, the full moon tends to bring up for you as a personality issues that need sorting. And so it can be a time where you just feel drawn for more inner reflection.
Teresa, can I just come in on Philip from Philip there? Yeah,
go for it.
It's Philip from the South Coast, isn't it?
It is, yes. Hi, Ted.
Thought I recognised that voice.
yeah.
We'll have to have a catch up sometime.
We will, yeah.
I wanted to just say, Teresa, that point that Philip made is so important about we have the Ray Masters, and the Christ is said to be the head of the hierarchy. The idea of the externalization of the hierarchy will be led by Christ the Master, but with the other masters in attendance as well, particularly of the second Ray Masters that we may know through Kutumi and Dwaj Kul, but also the first Ray Master, and definitely the Mahachohan, which is known to be the Master Rakoski. So I think this kind of idea that the Christ was the leader of the Christian religion has to be superseded by the understanding, really, that Christ is head of the hierarchy.
Yeah,
and as such, is really the second ray embodiment of the energy of love, wisdom that we talked about. So I think
he's often given the title World Teacher, isn't he? Well, he takes the role of World Teacher. Yeah. When you said before the Gemini, the teacher and the healer, you know, he embodied that. Yes. And I think also, if people, we were talking about it, I think it was last week or the week before, the idea that there is a Christ consciousness that's far beyond the human man that embodied that. You know, he was the best vessel on the planet at the time that was able to embody that Christ consciousness. And he came to show us that we can do that too. And, you know, this is where the concept of the Christ within, or that you too can reach a point where you can embody the Christ consciousness like Jesus Christ did, and like other avatars since have, and the masters have. So it's making, instead of, I think sometimes we can think of masters as so far beyond our reach that do you know what I mean? But what they're trying to tell us is, no, we were once where you are as well. If you keep working on your spiritual path and opening the heart, embodying that love wisdom, you too can reach these higher states of being. Yeah, Philip.
Yeah, I mean, following on what Ted's saying, obviously we use the word Christ, but obviously Buddhists have Maitreya as the coming
right.
teacher, the Muslims, the Imam Mahdi, Hindus, Krishna, and it's all the same personage. Yep. It's just an office in the hierarchy, actually. It's that other entities have taken that role in previous ages, but the Christ Maitreya is the coming avatar who's embodying the Christ principle for us. I believe in the physical presence, and that the other masters are going to externalize, possibly, very shortly or within, spending up to the next 5 years or whatever. I mean, well, the way things are, might be sooner, I think.
I do wonder if humanity's call will get loud enough so it's sooner. It's certainly, I think current event, we could not have foreseen. If someone had said to you last year that at this time last year, if someone had said, well, next June, the whole world will have been locked down, everything will have been closed, everyone will have gone home, and we'll have this virus affecting the whole world and changing everything, you wouldn't have believed it. You just would have, no, you've been watching too much Netflix. Do you know what I mean? You just wouldn't have believed it. I mean, I had a notice from my kids' school today. They're going back into school. They're coming up for their GCSE year. They're going back into school for 4 days between now and September. And in September, they're not going back to school full time. So the rest of the year, they will not be in school. They'll be home, driving me mad. So, the effect of this is going to be for some time, and I think we just need to find that a phrase that, Ted, I know you use, that spiritual staying power, so that think, oh no, a lot of people are thinking, well, this will all be over and I'll be back to normal and I'll be flying on my holiday to Spain in September. And no. No. And the sooner we can accept that, because that's another quality of the heart, is acceptance, accepting things as they are in this moment. If we can accept that things are going to be different, and we don't necessarily know, we don't know what next month's going to be like, and that uncertainty is actually really good for us, because it stops everything becoming very crystallized. It stops us getting attached to things being as they are, and it allows us to flow and trust with how things are in any given moment. And then we're okay in the next moment and the next moment. And it takes a lot of courage to surrender to living with that much trust and faith in your higher self, in the whole. It's not easy, because we tend to like to know, and we tend to like to control.
Teresa, I don't know if participants in the group are aware, and you're very strong on group consciousness, but the subject of the Arcane School conference this year is the law of group progress. And I don't know whether you've received the program. It's Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, but there's some very good speakers lined up. It's kind of the spirituality, you'll know this, spirituality applied. It's not just quotes from the teachings, it's actually, and there's a lady who I've met with wonderful second ray energies like yourself called Kathy Newburn. Have you met Kathy Newburn?
I haven't met her, but she takes the Triangles webinars every Monday. Yeah.
Did you speak on the Great Invocation video that you played before? Was that?
No, that's a lady from London. I can't remember her name.
Anyway, Kathy Newburn is speaking on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, she's a very good speaker.
Well, I didn't know. It's easy for people to just go to the website and log in. I didn't know whether you had a program that you were going to make available to anybody listening who might want to.
I can send out the email that invites you, because anybody can tune into the Arcane School conference that's on this weekend. Yeah. Like Ted said, it's Saturday and Sunday afternoon broadcast. you just go on the luciustrust.org website and it'll be right there, or I can send something out when I send the recording.
I would strongly recommend the talk by Kathy Newman, if nothing else. She's
Yeah.
the most beautiful second-rate speaker.
Yeah, brilliant. Anybody else? You're all bringing all the duality in your life into a unity, are you? Well, have a thought for me. I have twins in my house who are 15, a boy and a girl. So hormones going crazy. They are both Pisces and Scorpio rising, and we're in Gemini full moon. So on that note,
Have fun then.
So I will be spending a very contemplative spiritual day as much as I can on my own tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right, on that very real, very down-to-earth note, I'm going to end it there. Next week, I thought it might be quite pertinent for me just to talk a little bit about the relationship of the personality and the soul, especially for those who might not have explored that. And I know for myself, on my sort of esoteric reading and exploration of the ancient wisdom, it wasn't until I met the diagram of the upper triangle and the lower triangle and the way they work together, that the whole relationship between my soul and my personality, it all just sort of fell into place in this sort of whole picture depiction. So I thought I'll go through that next week, because I know for me it was a real that makes so much sense. And then as my knowledge grew, I could just feed it into that diagram, and it became a real framework. So I thought I'll run you through that next week. So have a lovely full moon. So particularly important to repeat the Great Invocation right at the fullest of the full moon, right at the peak of the full moon tomorrow night at 8:12 p.m. So perhaps in meditation 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after. And if you want to join another full moon meditation, the Lucius Trust have one tomorrow night at 6:30 that you can find on their website. Otherwise, have a lovely evening and thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.